The first Ask Me Anything episode of the 2021-22 NHL season. Last season, this quickly became my favorite series to do on the channel, and don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed doing this throughout the off-season, but there's nothing like doing it in the regular season where there's always new things to talk about, new things for you guys to ask questions about because there's games on every day. The theme of this Ask Me Anything video is going to be overreactions because obviously we aren't even a full week into the season, but there's already no shortage of things to talk about. There was a ton of questions on the post, so even if I don't feature your question in today's video, just know I read all of the comments and I appreciate every single one of you guys. And if you would like to see this become a weekly series on the channel, then be sure to leave this video a like, let me know in the comments that you enjoyed. I was thinking maybe I could do this every Monday. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first question. This one comes from Stony037, who says, is the Atlantic Division actually a lot closer in competition than originally people anticipated? Throughout the first couple of games of the season, it looks like it could be, with how good of a start the Buffalo Sabres got off to, and Ottawa and Detroit have played pretty well to start the season as well, but I do still feel like eventually the top four teams, or who everyone expects to be the top four teams, Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston, are gonna kind of pull away from the rest of the division. I just can't see Detroit, Ottawa, or Buffalo, those teams making the playoffs. Maybe one of them continues to play well throughout the entirety of the season and is in the hunt for a wild card spot down the stretch, but that's like the most I could see happening. One thing I will say though is it does look like that maybe the bottom of the Atlantic Division isn't quite as far away from the Montreal Canadiens as everyone originally anticipated. Montreal has looked awful to start the season. The next question comes from Drew Ruff, who says, thoughts on the Coyotes and Leafs loosening their dress code? I absolutely love this. I hope every team ends up implementing this. People complain about NHL players being too boring, there being a lack of character in the NHL. Well, this is the perfect way for people to express themselves without actually talking or having to speak to the media or anything like that. Just use the NBA as an example. They don't have a dress code, and every day throughout the regular season, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, you see photos or videos of the teams walking into the arena, showing off different outfits, stuff like that. So eventually I hope that starts happening with the NHL. The next comment comes from Hattrick Kane, who says, is Danton Heinen pushing for a 25 to 30 goal season and reviving his career? I don't quite know about 25 to 30 goals, but this is a player who with the Boston Bruins once had a 15 plus goal, 40 plus point season. I believe it was in 2017 or 2018. So I could definitely see Danton Heinen getting back to that type of production, maybe having a 20 goal season. He's getting a chance to play up in the lineup with the injuries the Penguins have, and throughout the first 3 games, he's done pretty well. Next up, this comment comes from Wes McCauley, who says, was Nedeljkovic's success last year due to Carolina's amazing D, or is he just getting used to a new team? I definitely think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, it helped Nedeljkovic last year having one of the best D-cores in the entire league in front of him. There's going to be an adjustment period coming to Detroit, who is defensively challenged, to say the least. As far as Nedeljkovic letting up 7 goals in the first game of the season, I think that had to be the best performance by a goaltender in history who let up 7 goals. Like, he wasn't bad at all. A lot of the goals were just unstoppable, you know, Stamkos one-timers, Kucherov one-timers. I'm not worried about Nedeljkovic. Like I said, I think there's going to be an adjustment period there, and I fully expected coming into the season anyway to see his numbers have a significant decrease from last season just based off of him changing situations. Moving along now, we have another question about a goaltender here. This one comes from Valtrix, who says, Carter Hart has another disappointing season. Man, I really hope not. If you've been subscribed to the channel even for the past year, you would know I'm a pretty big believer in Carter Hart. He was actually my Vezina pick last season, which yikes. I made a video, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, talking about players who I think will bounce back this upcoming season. Carter Hart was in that video, and I know it's only been 1 game, but wow, was that a bad 1 game from Carter Hart. They lost in the shootout against the Vancouver Canucks, and some of the goals that were going in on Carter Hart, he just didn't look comfortable in the net. He didn't look confident, and that is something that kind of worries me because when it comes to a young player especially, I feel like confidence is such a huge factor in the success that they have, even when it comes to a young goaltender. I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon yet. I still believe in Carter Hart, but it was definitely a pretty rough start to the season for him. Moving along now, this next comment comes from Oli Panthers, who says, do you think the Florida Panthers are capable of going through to the second round? I definitely do. If you watched my division prediction videos, I predicted the Florida Panthers to finish first in the Atlantic Division, and through their first couple games of the season, I have seen nothing to make me question that pick. I'm a big believer in this team. I like the D-core that they have. I think they're really deep up front, and since the theme of this video is overreactions, I'll throw this out there. Is Sergei Bobrovsky back? I mean, he looked real solid in the Panthers' first 2 games of the season. If he can remain consistent and get back to being the goaltender we know Sergei Bobrovsky can be when he was at his peak, when he was playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets, then I wouldn't be surprised if the Florida Panthers go past the second round even. Next up, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name, but you can see it on the screen. The question is, how do you feel about the Pens play so far? Love your videos. I'm a Pens fan. I appreciate the support. I've definitely been surprised by the Penguins play so far. I predicted them to miss the playoffs. Obviously, I thought they were going to struggle with Malkin and Crosby out of the lineup to start the season, but that certainly has not been the case. They've been getting production from up and down the lineup from guys you wouldn't expect to produce. I mean, Brian Boyle scored a breakaway goal in the first game of the season against the Lightning. They're getting good goaltending, which I think is the most important thing. Tristan Jarry's off to a good start to the season. And also, if I'm not mistaken, Sidney Crosby is already back practicing with the team, so he shouldn't be all that far away from returning. It just seems like it's going to be another year where the Pittsburgh Penguins prove myself and a lot of other people wrong. They're an extremely well-coached team, and it just seems like no matter how many injuries they have, no matter how many guys are out of the lineup, they just get guys to step up and fill those roles nicely and just stay afloat until they get their guys back. They're a really well-run team. This next comment comes from Wizard Tower, who says, could Jack Campbell be a Vezina candidate after his strong start to the season? I think he could for sure. He had the numbers last season to be a Vezina candidate. The sample size just wasn't there. He didn't play enough games. And through his first couple games of this season, I feel like Jack Campbell is already proving to people that last season was not a fluke. He is definitely that good. Now, obviously, I don't expect him to keep a 970 save percentage or whatever it is through the entirety of the season, but like a 920, a 925, a goals against average below 2, I think Jack Campbell is capable of putting up those numbers across an entire season. If he plays enough games, I definitely think he can be in the Vezina conversation this year. This next question comes from Cooney, who says, Panarin hasn't been playing his best hockey as of late. He seems frustrated on the ice. Do we see a dip in his production this year, or will he pick it up? I would definitely bank on him picking it up. He's too good of a player not to. Even though he hasn't started the season well, he still has 2 points in 3 games. Maybe he doesn't score at quite the pace he did last season, where he was like almost 20 points over a point per game, but I still think at the very least you can almost lock Panarin in for 85 to 90 points, and if he heats up, don't be surprised if he scores over 100. Continuing on now, this next question comes from Stony037, who says, is OEL already looking like the OEL of 3 years ago and getting back to being an elite defenseman? He definitely looks better throughout the first couple games of the season than he did in any games I've seen him play over the past couple of seasons in Arizona. OEL himself even came out and said he's feeling rejuvenated. He feels like a teenager again coming to the rink, which is a really good thing to hear. You know, when playing for a team like Arizona for how long Oliver Ekman-Larsson did, all the losing, that type of thing can really be mentally draining and make you fall out of love with the sport. We saw that happen with Ryan O'Reilly in Buffalo, so it's really nice to hear Ekman-Larsson say those things. And again, like I said, I think he's looked pretty solid throughout the first couple games of the season. I wouldn't go as far as saying he's back to being like an elite defenseman or worth his contract or anything like that, but even just Ekman-Larsson being good again, not even elite, just being good, I think the Canucks would take that as a huge win because he really wasn't good at all, again, the past couple seasons in Arizona. And now for the final question of the video, I wanted to do a lot more, but I'm kind of running out of time here. I'll make sure to do like 15 to 20 questions in the next episode, but this one comes from Dono Dog, who says, after Bertuzzi's 4-goal game, do you think that he will be able to reach the 60 to 70 point range, like a 40 goal, 20 assist type of year? Love the content. I really appreciate the support. 40 goals, I'm gonna go ahead and say no on that front. I love me some Bertuzzi, but you also have to take into account he's going to miss the 9 games, I believe it is, that Detroit plays in Canada this season because he's not vaccinated. But even if Bertuzzi was playing in all 82 games, I still don't know if he's a 40 goal guy. I'm gonna go with more of like a 30-30 type season where maybe he breaks the 60 point mark for the first time in his career, the 30 goal mark for the first time. I definitely think Bertuzzi's capable of that if Larkin stays healthy. The reason I say that is because they just work so well together, and one without the other, there's something missing there. I think a big reason why Larkin struggled last season is because Bertuzzi was out for basically the entire year. I hope I'm wrong here. I'd love to see Bertuzzi score 40 goals, but I feel like 30-30 is more achievable for the type of player that he is. So that is going to wrap up the first Ask Me Anything episode of the new season. I hope you guys are as excited as I am for this series. Like I said at the start, if you want to see this become a weekly thing every Monday, then let me know down below in the comment section that you enjoyed. Leave a like on the video, that kind of thing. And also feel free to leave your thoughts on any of the topics we touched on in today's video. I'm always interested to hear what you guys think, and I'll talk to you soon.